There are AI agents, and then there are AI agents. Most people think they're the same thing. They're not. When you hear AI agent, you probably think of Microsoft Copilot. Maybe Windows 11's so-called agentic OS, something built directly into the operating system. Always connected, always cloud-powered. That's one kind of AI agent. But OpenClaw, that's something very different. And if you care about privacy, control, or running your own AI infrastructure, the difference matters a lot. Because here's the narrative you've probably heard. If you run your own AI agent, it's not secure. It's not private. You'll expose your network. It's risky. That's what people say. But here's the truth. Privacy is not the problem. Misconfiguration is the problem. Security isn't impossible. Carelessness is. And those are two very different things. Let's break this down clearly. Microsoft Copilot runs inside Microsoft's ecosystem. Your data flows through Microsoft services. Your prompts may be processed in the cloud. Enterprise deployments route through Azure infrastructure. That model is convenient, but convenience comes with trade-offs. You don't control the backend. You don't control the data flow. You don't control the infrastructure. You trust the vendor. Now let's talk about OpenClaw.
Hi.
OpenClaw isn't a feature inside Windows. It's infrastructure you run yourself. You decide which LLM it connects to, where that model is hosted, whether it talks to the internet, what tools it can access, what network permissions it has. That's a completely different level of control. But control requires responsibility. That's where people get confused. When someone installs OpenClaw on a random machine, exposes it directly to the public internet, forwards ports without understanding firewall rules, and then says this is insecure, that's not a software flaw, that's a setup flaw. You can make almost anything insecure if you try hard enough. I did something interesting. I opened my OpenClaw home lab, intentionally under controlled conditions, and let it be attacked, not recklessly, deliberately, and it's still running fine. Why? Because infrastructure matters. Network segmentation matters. Authentication matters. Access control matters. Security isn't magic. It's architecture. Now let's talk privacy. If you connect OpenClaw to a local model running on your own hardware, nothing leaves your machine. No cloud calls, no vendor telemetry. No silent uploads. It's your data. Full stop. Compare that to Copilot-style integrations where data may pass through external servers. Again, not inherently evil, but different. Very different. Now here's the key misunderstanding. People think self-hosted automatically means unsafe. In reality, self-hosted can be more private if you configure it properly. It's like running your own email server. Done poorly, disaster. Done properly, complete control. And OpenClaw falls into that same category. This isn't about hype. This isn't about anti-Microsoft drama. This is about understanding the architectural difference between cloud-dependent AI agents and self-hosted AI infrastructure. They are not the same. One is convenience first. The other is control first. And depending on your goals, developer experimentation, enterprise privacy, or home lab infrastructure, that difference changes everything. But we're not done yet, because next we need to break down exactly how to install OpenClaw properly in a way that keeps it private, segmented, and secure. And this is where most people mess up. Let's walk through it step by step. All right, now let's talk installation, because OpenClaw itself isn't dangerous. Bad deployment is. Step 1. Decide where it runs. You have 3 main options: a dedicated Linux server, a virtual machine, a containerized environment like Docker. If you're serious about privacy and security, do not run it directly on your daily driver machine without isolation. Isolation is everything. The cleanest method. Dedicated Linux box or a VM with strict network rules. Now let's talk networking. The biggest mistake people make is exposing OpenClaw directly to the public internet. They forward a port on their router and think they're done. That's how you get compromised. Instead, keep OpenClaw behind a firewall. Use a reverse proxy if needed. Require authentication. And ideally access it through a VPN. If you can only reach your AI agent when connected to your private VPN, you've already eliminated 90% of attack surface. Security isn't about hiding, it's about reducing exposure. Now let's discuss models. OpenClaw can interface with multiple LLMs. You have 2 broad approaches: cloud-based LLMs API-driven. Local models running on your hardware. If privacy is your goal, local models win. Run something like a quantized LLM locally. No outbound calls. No third-party processing. Can even block outbound internet access entirely for that machine if you want maximum control. Now here's where people get confused. They assume self-hosted automatically equals safe. You're not true. If your AI agent has unrestricted access to your file system, network shares, and admin privileges, you created your own risk. Instead, use principle of least privilege. Give OpenClaw access only to what it needs. Not root access, not your whole LAN. If it's a home lab assistant, give it limited directories. If it's automation focused, sandbox its tools. Containers are powerful for this. Docker allows you to restrict volumes, restrict network access, and isolate processes. Now, let's talk authentication. Do not rely on default credentials. Set strong passwords. Enable multi-factor authentication if supported. Avoid anonymous access entirely. If you expose it externally, use proper TLS encryption through a reverse proxy like in Ginx or Caddy. Encrypted traffic prevents interception. Now let's talk logging. You're serious about security, you monitor your system. Check access logs. Monitor failed login attempts. Watch network traffic. Security isn't just setup, it's awareness. When I opened my OpenClaw home lab, intentionally for testing, I didn't just hope it was secure. I segmented it from my main network. I limited privileges. I monitored logs. That's why it survived. Now here's something important. Copilot-style AI agents live in massive cloud infrastructure managed by large teams. You're not going to replicate enterprise-scale monitoring at home, but you don't need to, because your exposure is smaller. A properly segmented home lab with VP unknownly access is actually harder to target than a globally exposed cloud service. Attackers go for easy targets. Open ports, weak passwords, no encryption. If you remove those weaknesses, your risk drops dramatically. Now let's talk about the philosophical difference. Microsoft's model is convenience first. OpenClaw is control first. Convenience means less configuration. Control means more responsibility. Control also means no forced telemetry, no hidden logging, no dependency on vendor decisions. You choose the model. You choose the network. You choose the access. That's powerful. But it requires understanding. And the biggest myth we need to kill is this. Self-hosted AI isn't private. That's false. It can be extremely private, if configured correctly. Now in the final part, we're going to talk about real-world use cases and why OpenClaw as infrastructure can actually be more powerful than Copilot in certain scenarios. Because this isn't just about privacy, it's about capability. Now let's talk about why OpenClaw isn't just a privacy alternative. It can actually be more powerful than Copilot, depending on how you use it. Because here's the thing. Copilot is integrated. OpenClaw is programmable. That's a massive difference. Copilot works inside Microsoft's ecosystem. It helps inside Word, inside Excel, inside Teams, inside Windows. That's convenient, but it's confined. OpenClaw, on the other hand, can orchestrate tools across your entire environment. You can connect it to local scripts, custom APIs, home automation systems, DevOps, pipelines, databases, private LLMs, cloud LLMs. You design the agent logic. You decide what tools it can call. You control how it chains tasks together. That's infrastructure-level flexibility. Now let's talk about a real-world scenario. Imagine you run a small business. With Copilot, you can draft documents or summarize meetings. With OpenClaw, you could pull sales data from your database, analyze trends, generate a report, send it to your email, trigger alerts if revenue drops below a threshold. All automatically, because you're not limited to one ecosystem. You're building your own, and that's the key philosophical shift. Cloud AI is productized. Self-hosted AI is customizable. Now here's where privacy becomes powerful. If you're running sensitive internal data, financial records, research notes, proprietary code, do you want that flowing through third-party infrastructure? Maybe you're fine with it, maybe you're not. OpenClaw gives you the option to keep it local. Full control. No telemetry unless you add it. No silent background communication. But again, control means responsibility. If you expose it publicly without proper authentication, that's on you. If you give it full admin rights, that's on you. Security in self-hosted systems isn't automatic, it's deliberate. But deliberate systems are often stronger. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Is Copilot insecure?
Not necessarily.
Microsoft has enormous security teams. Enterprise deployments are hardened heavily, but you're trusting them. Trust is a business decision. OpenClaw flips that. Instead of trusting a vendor, you trust your own configuration. Some people prefer that, some people don't. That's the real divide. It's not a I agent versus AI agent. It's cloud control versus self-control. And if you understand infrastructure, if you understand firewalls, containers, access control, authentication, self-hosted AI, becomes incredibly powerful. When I opened my home lab OpenClaw instance to controlled attack testing, I wasn't gambling. I was validating architecture. Network segmentation worked, authentication worked, logging worked, no compromise. Because the system was built intentionally. And that's the lesson here. OpenClaw isn't dangerous. Bad setup is dangerous. Copilot isn't evil, but it's centralized. These are architectural choices, not moral ones. If you want convenience, Copilot makes sense. If you want control, experimentation, and maximum privacy potential, OpenClaw makes sense. Just understand what you're choosing. AI agents are not all the same. Some are products. Some are platforms. And OpenClaw is closer to a platform. Which means if you configure it correctly, you can build something far more private, and in some cases, more powerful than what's built into Windows. The key isn't fear, it's understanding. Understand the infrastructure, understand the risk model, and then choose intentionally. That's how you use AI without giving up control.